Today I'm pleased to say hello to Nick Forgham. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm very well, thanks, David. How are you?
Good, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Obviously, in the same series, Through Their Eyes, we're going to talk to Nick about his career and what he's learned along the way and how he's developed himself and how he's going to future-proof himself for the future. But in the similar ilk to the recent videos and podcast conversations we've had with Michaela, who talked about yoga, and Jane, who talked about her link with hockey to business, and Michaela did yoga to business. Nick's going to talk about his martial arts, and I'm very pleased to say that I've read his book and I really enjoyed it. It's a couple of years ago that I read it, and it is about building great awareness and resilience, and I love this stuff. It really got me thinking. I've read a lot of books like this, and it's just hit the nail on the head and really enjoyed it. So if you do need to build your self-awareness and resilience for some martial arts thinking and black belt thinking, this is a really good place to start. So if I could just ask you, Nick, to kick us off with a bit of an overview of your career and where you're up to now.
Oh, blimey. I'm 50, well, I forgot how old I am now. I'm 58, blimey.
Don't look it.
No. So corporate life after university for about 8-10 years, got made redundant, set up a gift business, importing gifts from Romania, Egypt, and then I had some stuff made to me in China, and I actually sold it to gift shops around the country, museum gift shops. Every museum's got a gift shop. So I went over to Egypt with 2 empty suitcases, came back with a whole load of stuff. The tourist tap doesn't work, but anything that's educational will work. So I did that for a few years, built that up, sold it because a mate got into the internet business. So we did a family-friendly website. We put Whitbread and Allied Domecq pubs that were family-friendly. We put a directory of them on the internet. So it might be a rather small claim to fame, but I think I got Whitbread on the internet because this was like 30 years ago.
Wow.
And then just a variety of things since then. I'm a director with BNI, the world's largest networking and referral marketing organization. But having done karate for 32 years now, I think there's a lot of substance in the traditional martial arts. And just like you were saying, you know, it can be things like hockey as well. When you apply yourself to something, there's often a lot of depth there, which for some people can be a bit off-putting. But for people like me and probably your previous guest, the more you go into it and the more you're still discovering stuff and the more you're seeing things from a different perspective. And I think as well, crucially, the more you're understanding about yourself, then it just becomes more and more fascinating as time goes on. So yeah, I do still practice in karate. I do still teach. But it's the whole mindset thing that's most appealing for me.
Yeah. So what has self-development meant to you through your career?
I think self-development, you obviously do, like, you know, when you're in the corporate world, you get the corporate stuff. And, you know, I remember with BT, we went away for it was a whole week. It was a residential course. It was all to do with marketing and stuff like that. And obviously there's bits of that you kind of assimilate into yourself. But in terms of personal development, I think that only really started, I'd say BNI was a big catapult for that, because it just got me interested in, you know, people saying, oh, I've just read this book and it's made me realize this. I'm going, what? There's books on this stuff? So I think probably my single biggest message is probably the biggest single thing for me to answer your question. And it's all about awareness. You know, there'll be a lot of people out there who are not aware of the concept of future-proofing, let alone future-proofing yourself, let alone there are actually ways and techniques and things you can do to do that. So whether it's hockey, future-proofing, karate, whatever, for me, it all starts with awareness. And that's at a physical level. When I teach self-defense courses, everything starts with awareness. And it's the reason why most of the black belts I know have never used it. Not because they're paranoid and always sort of, you know, trying to just sort of living a life of fear, but just it's like, oh, there's something going on over there. I need to check that out, or I need to go that way. But it's this mental state of awareness as well. You're just aware of what's going on around you. You're aware of what other people are thinking. It's just this whole concept of being aware, to be in tune, to have the connection with what's going on in the world with other people. So for me, it all starts with awareness.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. And is there anything that you wish you'd have known at the start of your career that, you know, looking back and you think you now know?
I think probably the biggest thing would be that it's very, very, very difficult to completely, I'll be careful with my language, to completely mess something up. It
Yeah.
really is. I mean, you know, I might be launching a new product as a marketing person to a sales team of 30, 50, 100 people. I could potentially really mess that up, but actually at the end of the day, that's not such a terrible thing. I don't think I ever did that, by the way, but if I did, that's actually not in itself a massively terrible thing. So you'd have to go, I think you'd have to really work at it, you know, to actually mess something up completely. So I think for me, taking out like the fear and the not anxiety, but the being overcautious, I think I should have probably just gone for it, really.
Well, yeah, but you say that, but how many people would go off to Egypt with 2 suitcases and bring back a load of stuff and start a business? I would say that is going for it.
It's all relative, isn't it? I think I'm not looking back at my, whatever it is, 37 years in business with regret, because I've done some stuff, I've achieved some stuff, I've done some mad stuff, which I like a bit of. But I do think if I could have a talk with myself when I was 21, I'd just say, "Oh, just do whatever you want to do, mate. Just go for it." You know, you'll still be alive in 5 years' time. You'll still be alive in 25 years' time. You're going to achieve what you want to achieve in terms of getting married, have a family, be fit and healthy. You're going to do all that anyway. So why not just go crazy? You know?
Yeah. Well, great advice. I think they should ship you into the sixth form in schools and go, just go mad for it. Just, you know, just go and live a bit. Just do whatever you want. Don't listen to these teachers. Just go and enjoy it. But no, I get what you're saying, is that sometimes we feel we must do things in a certain way rather than being a little bit more free spirit and entrepreneurial with it all.
Yeah, I'd just write to Boris Johnson and say, "Look, mate, I can do a better job than you. I want your job. Just, you know, whatever you want to do, just go for it." You know.
Well, if you don't ask, you don't get.
That's a big thing. And the other big thing that keeps going through my head is, and it really was along the lines of what I was just talking about, is what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
What is the worst? Usually the worst that can happen is that nothing happens. So in other words, you haven't actually lost anything.
Yeah. But you'll always learn from the experience.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what's the best piece of advice you've been given along your journey?
Best piece of advice. There's so many. I think there was a. I'm not going to quite answer that straightforwardly. But when I was doing my stuff from Egypt, and I come back with these 2 empty suitcases, just to kind of build on that theme, there was a guy at the Bagshaw Museum in Batley, which is just south of Leeds. I mean, people in Yorkshire were saying that's not just south of Leeds, that's 20 miles south of Leeds. But so we're in Reading and Berkshire at the moment, so it is for us just south of Leeds. But I phoned him up and I said, "Oh, I've just brought all this stuff over from Egypt," and I drove up to just south of Leeds to go and see him. And he just said, he was a lovely, lovely man called Brian Haig. And he just said, right, he said, that won't sell. The stuff here won't sell. It's too touristy. The price point, he said, my market, because this is just south of Leeds, is kids who come in. I'm going back 30 years now. They've got £1 in their pocket. They want something for themselves and want something for their mum. He said, if you can get me some postcards that I will retail at 30p, I will sell thousands of them a year. And I thought, right, so I've got 50 gift shops, thousands of postcards a year per gift shop. And he actually made my business. And what he did was he helped me understand what the buyers wanted. Because if I was trying to sell like plates with Tutankhamun on them that sold at $9.99, and I would sell about 2 a year, but I sold tens of thousands of postcards and bookmarks and little scarab beetle things and all that stuff. So it wasn't necessarily advice, but it was just like, find someone who, there's two messages there for me. One is find someone who can explain to you what the market wants. But the other thing is, like, what he did for that 1 hour meeting is he basically was my mentor, my coach, my confidant, and all he wanted was just to help me out.
Brilliant.
And those people are gold dust. I mean, he effectively built my business.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other message for me.
Yeah. So what are you still doing to sort of keep your development and your learning going, linked in, you know, with your martial arts?
Well, I didn't know you were going to ask that question. So I like to specialise. So in the last couple of months, because I have a program, an online program called Black Belt Confidence, and it's one of my central philosophies is that if you're good at something or reasonably good at something, focus on that and get better. So actually, the last couple of months, I've read this book, which is a really good book, and it's all about confidence. I've read this book, which is all about confidence. And also, a little bit out of left field, I've read this book.
Yeah.
Because actually, it's all about confidence and about the fear bubble and just putting the fear bubble around you and thinking, well, that's not an issue. So I'm actually reading John Humphrey's autobiography at the moment.
Yes.
And actually, that's quite interesting because he talks about do you succeed because of something, or do you succeed in spite of it?
Yeah.
And the wrong way to do it is to succeed in spite of it, because you've always got a grudge. You're always trying to, I've got to do this. But actually, if you have what follows on closely from awareness is acceptance. And if you say, well, for me, if I say, well, I accept I was bullied at school, I accept that did massively affect me. I also accept that at the age of 25, it was probably the main motivator, although I didn't know at the time, to go and start karate, which has opened so many doors and given me friends and all this sort of thing. So it's about acceptance.
Wow. Okay. So at the moment, perhaps in difficult times for a lot of people, what would you say that we need to sort of accept at the moment? I mean, obviously, a lot of people have said to me, I can accept at the moment it's difficult because everyone else has got it difficult. But if this was on me on my own, and I saw my friends doing really well with work, I'd be sort of quite bitter. So in terms of the lockdown process that we've been going through, how do people how would you encourage them to sort of accept the situation?
I think it's probably the biggest single message. It's in the book, it's in my online programs, is about responsibility. And I quote Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee drew a circle around him with his foot. So if you just stick your foot out, whether you're sitting or standing as you're watching this, and just draw a circle around you. And from a self-defense point of view, if someone comes into my circle and they're here, I need to know who they are. Are they going to? And the phrase that Bruce Lee used was, "Are they going to kiss me or kill me?"
Yeah.
And you have to get it right, because if you get it wrong, it'll be embarrassing or you're dead. So
Yeah.
make sure you get it right if someone's suddenly in your circle. But I think it's much wider than that, and it's actually saying, what is in my circle? And this is like the fear bubble that Ant Middleton did. What is it that I can take responsibility for? Because as we come out of lockdown and there's the easing of it, and hopefully there won't be another spike, we don't know. There's all these things are going to happen, and we can't take responsibility for that because they're totally outside of our control. What we can take responsibility for is ourselves.
Yeah.
So in the last 10 weeks, I've launched a new product, which is getting the hits. Just need to convert that into business. But it's about taking responsibility for what we can control. Now, it's very easy. It's almost a glib thing, is to say, well, obviously I can control how I feel. And yes, we can to a large extent. But I think a lot of it comes back to like the personal development and the mindset, because we can control that. It will be harder at times than others, but we can actually say, well, maybe my friends have gone off and they've done this. Maybe they work in sectors that have not been massively affected, but you know, if I'm owning a pub right now or something like that, it's going to be difficult. So it's like, what is it that I can do that I control? And it's, in the nicest possible way, it becomes all about me, the me in here. What can I do? And it's, the first step is to take responsibility for it. And there's a trap to fall into with this, which is sometimes people think that when you're taking responsibility that you're actually judging yourself. And the trick, if you like, the way to get this right is to take responsibility without judging yourself. So if I give you not a specific example, but I know that just occasionally I do stupid things. But I do. And you know me quite well, and you're laughing because you agree. I don't think that means I'm stupid. Okay, so I do stupid things, but that doesn't mean that I'm a stupid person and I'm an idiot and and all that. So the trick is to take responsibility, to have awareness of who we are and what we want and how we're going to get it, without being too hard on ourselves, where we say, oh well, you know, you tried that twice and it didn't work, you're a loser and all that sort of thing. That just doesn't, that serves absolutely no purpose at all.
Yeah, no, that's great, wonderful. So just before we sort of come to the end, I'd love to just find out what's the thing you've enjoyed the most during your career. When you look back and you think, yeah, really pleased I did that, and I really enjoyed that.
I think it's there's probably two highlights. One is the people you meet on the way, because we're all about people. I once came up with this idea for a brochure of this telecoms thing, and I took it to my boss, and he said, "There's one thing missing." I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, you tell me." I said, "No," and he said, "There's no people on it. You've drawn this brochure, but he said, what's business all about?" And it's all about people. And you know, you meet them socially and everything else, and they become people you can connect with. So I think that's definitely one thing. And then the other thing is that it's probably just for me, it's the way I create things. I just like to just create things out of nothing, whether it's going off to Egypt and coming back and then 5 years later selling a gift business.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I just love to create things, you know, and we're all different, but I love to have start basically with nothing, just an idea.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
how did you come up with that idea? I mean, it's not, how old were you then?
how old was I? It must have been about, I must have been late 20s.
Okay, so my son's 25, and if he said, right, Dad, I'm going to Egypt with some, could I borrow your suitcases? You know, I'm going to Egypt to buy some stuff to come back. I would just say, the first thing, I'd tell him yes to do it, but I would say to him, how did you come up with the idea? So how did you come up with the idea?
Well, for me, it was a bit circuitous. So having been made redundant, I ended up in Bucharest at a trade show because my best mate from university was getting married to a Romanian, and it just so happened there was a trade show in Bucharest, and they just shot Ceausescu, you know, the dictator. So we're going around this trade show, and there's loads of farming machinery and tractors and God knows what else, very agricultural. And then we went inside, and there was this Egyptian guy selling some baby stuff. I didn't know what babies were in my late 20s. And he had some papyrus. So I just bought a bit of papyrus back with me, and I showed it to my wife, who'd studied archaeology at university. And she said, well, why don't you take it to a museum shop? And it just all started from there. So Brilliant. I took it to a museum shop. They said, if you can get this, we'll buy loads of it. So I went over to Egypt.
Oh, brilliant. I love those stories. That's brilliant. So then, just to finish off then, what next? What for the future? You've already mentioned my three favourite words, future-proof yourself. So what's Nick looking at for the future to make sure that he continues to enjoy what he does and be a success of it?
What I've said in terms of like taking responsibility for my, you know, I will create my future. I will determine my destiny. I wish it would be a smooth road for once, but it won't be. But that's part of the fun, isn't it? You know, I know that. I've gone online. I have a confidence program online. I have a 7-lesson beginner karate program online that I've done in the last few weeks. So I'm going to go online. I'm probably going to blend it a little bit with some webinars and some of the stuff that you're doing as well, because I think that's very helpful to people, very effective. So yeah, all sorts of things. And you know, who knows where I'll be by the end of this year. probably
Okay.
somewhere a little bit different, hopefully.
Yeah. So what we'll do is on the YouTube channel, if you're watching this, down below a little bit, we'll put Nick's details. So if you are interested in any of those things, please do contact him. If you're listening to this on the podcast, Nick, can you just very slowly say where people can find you?
Yeah, there's two web addresses. There's www.nickforgham, so that's NICKFORGHAM, M for mother.com. And probably the easiest one to remember is if you put in www.learnkarate, all one word, learnkarate.co, but you need the www in there as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. And yes, if you're ever out and about in Reading and you fancy messing with somebody, find out if their name's Nick first, because I wouldn't mess with him. So, but thank you very much for your time. Really appreciated. And yeah, I just love that story about the going to Egypt with the 2 suitcases. If you don't mind, I'm going to use that. I'm going to go and tell my son about that. I'm going to say, right, where can you take 2 suitcases to and come back and make loads of money? Can't do it quite at the moment, but I'm sure we'll be able to do it by the end of the year. Yeah.
Definitely.
So thanks very much for your time. Really appreciated.
That's all right. Cheers. Enjoy
Okay.
it. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Good luck. Cheers.